Well, Saints Row is back, and this time, it's serious. Well, okay, it's not that serious, as you'll soon come to see, but this new reboot of the series is walking back on some of the extra wacky activities that you might be familiar with from some of the more recent games in the series. Which means, yes, we've definitely seen an end to you wielding thickly veined purple dildo baseball bats as melee weapons. But is that really a bad thing? Is the immature and irreverent Saints Row that you know and love dead and ruined forever? Or is it time for the series to finally grow up? I'm Eurogamer's Ian Higton, and recently I got to see a big old hands-off demo of the game, and in this video that features over 23 minutes of brand new Saints Row gameplay, I hope to answer those questions for you as I take you through 7 things I liked about the Saints Row reboot and 4 things that I didn't. But before I get into that, here's a quick little bit of background on the story to help you understand what the hell is Saints Rowing on with this new installment in the series.
You got one of those for me?
You really want one after last time?
I am not the first person to accidentally shoot a friend by dropping a loaded... Yeah, okay, I don't need a gun.
Good call. Showtime.
First up, you need to forget everything that you've learned from the previous games. Say goodbye to Johnny Gat, cheerio to Kenzie, and sayonara to Steelport and Stillwater, because this brand new story is ripping all of that up and starting from fresh in an attempt to bring a bit of balance to the over-the-top comedy from the later games in the series. The vibe Volition are going for with this reboot is more akin to the slightly more serious tone of Saints Row 2, where the over-the-top action was grounded in a slightly more realistic setting, with a bit of the craziness of Saints Row 3 layered on top to hopefully create a sweet spot between the two. Saints Row 2022 then takes place in a rather large city called Santo Ileso, which is home to 3 criminal gangs. There's the Los Panteros, who are obsessed with vehicles and fitness, there's the nightlife-loving anarchist group The Idols, and then there's Marshall Defense Industries, a PMC that trades in high-tech weaponry. But what about the Saints, you may be asking? Well, in the universe of Santo Ileso, the Saints don't exist yet, so it's your job as the boss to bring dissatisfied members of all 3 factions together to form a brand new supergroup, aka the Saints. The first thing you'll notice about all this gameplay that you're seeing is that this is by far the best looking Saints Row game to date. While the characters and costumes still retain quite a cartoony vibe, the city of Santo Ileso itself is looking great so far. There are 9 districts in total, and according to the developers, they were inspired by areas from all over the American Southwest, from the deserts of New Mexico right through to built-up urban areas inspired by places like Las Vegas or Reno. It's not perfect, mind. The desert town areas in particular, while highly detailed, do have a bit of a beigey, been there, done that in GTA 5 look to them, which left me feeling rather cold. But I did really love the look of this nighttime police chase through an area inspired by Las Vegas. The lighting here looks epic, especially the way the reds and the blues from the police car's siren bounce all over the scenery. And there seems to be a lot of extra detail to the buildings and surrounding areas here, which brings everything to life.
Jesus, this car is fucked up!
It belongs to my husband. He's on the city council.
Does he know about your hobby?
Oh no, that's our little secret.
Hate to say it, but the car might be a giveaway.
Don't worry, I'll deal with him soon enough.
What's not so great is that I'm not sure how many of these buildings that we can see are actually just pretty set dressing and how many we can actually go inside and explore. Hopefully the level of detail on show here is more than just a hollow illusion of a busy city. Previous Saints Row games have all been really light on city interactivity, with perhaps a gun store or a clothing shop here and there to enter, and then whatever buildings you need to go into in order to follow the critical path, and I'm a bit worried that the same could be said for this game. According to the developers in the Q&A that we attended after we saw the gameplay demo, there are a ton of discoverable elements in the map that will pop up as you traverse the world, which should make exploring a lot of fun. These include things like bands on the sidewalk who'll serenade you as you walk past them, through to loads of collectibles that you can find and use to decorate your HQ. There's also going to be random events that will appear as you explore the map, such as armoured trucks that spawn and act as mobile treasure chests for you to hunt down and steal. But none of this sounds particularly innovative, so I'm hoping there'll be something in there that we haven't seen yet that will breathe more life into the city of Santo Ileso. When the Saints Row reboot was announced, I think a lot of fans were a bit worried by the footage they saw. Without the 1 million miles per hour wackiness with building, jumping, super sprinting powers and guns made out of buttholes, what we saw during the initial reveal trailer looked more generic than a cup of lukewarm tap water. Thankfully, since then, we've been given a few glimpses of gameplay, and aside from the loss of a few fart jokes here and there, the core DNA of the experience looks every bit of a Saints Row game as you'd expect. From the goofy gun and fist fights and the pedal-to-the-metal pedestrian punishing car chases, through to the return of familiar side missions like the explosive mayhem mode. If you've been pining for some Saints Row action that doesn't have aliens or superpowers in it, you'll be right at home here in Santo Ileso. But, and this is a big but, if you've been hoping for a lot of next-gen innovation to the series, I don't think you'll find it here. Driving and fighting is all in third person as before, and the open world missions follow a similar structure to Saints Row 2 in the way that you rescue friends, form a gang and battle for turf. I don't know, to me, what I've seen so far makes it all seem a bit like what The Force Awakens was to A New Hope. Basically, just the same thing, but bigger. A retelling rather than a full reboot. Sure, it's still fun and all, but I do wonder how memorable the game will be when a lot of it is just retreading old ground. Oh, and while we're thinking about the old games for a second, shout out to this Professor Genki helmet that's being worn by this member of the collective, who is one of the leaders of the Idols. Does that helmet mean we'll see nods to other faces from past games in the series? As someone who loves hunting for Easter eggs, I sure do hope so. While Saints Row 2022 is a much more grounded game than its predecessors, I was very happy to see that it's still full of wacky weapons and a liberal amount of gore. The best example of this that I saw was the Pineapple Express combat skill, which mixes slapstick comedy with high explosives. This is one of the many perk skills you can get in the game. Others include a perk that tases enemies when they hit you, and a flaming punch skill that goes to show that the developers haven't completely binned off all the comic book violence from the previous games. Also making an appearance are new finisher moves like this fake-out crane kick, but just like the perks, it wasn't made clear by the gameplay how these are triggered. They seem pretty easy to attach to your character though. Just open up your skills and perks phone apps before a mission, select the ones you want, and away you go. It was scenes like these that showed me that humour was still a core part of the Saints Row experience, even though, as you'll see every so often when the weapon wheel pops up, most of the weapons available to you this time round are not shaped like willies. Phallic or not, some of the weapons available to you look a lot of fun to wield. As the boss is an ex-member of the MDI faction, they have a lot of access to experimental weaponry, and one of the ones that looks the most fun to play around with is the Thrust Buster here, which, when thrown at enemies, launches them up into the air like little fleshy fireworks. Ooh, indeed. Although I didn't see it happen, the Thrust Buster can also be thrown at cars to send them flying through the air, and there was also talk of a way to add special ability upgrades to weapons, which makes their effects even more bonkers than before. Other awesome additions to your arsenal that I saw included a gun called the Quantum Aperture that allows you to shoot through walls, and a pinata gun that, you guessed it, fires exploding pinatas at your enemies.
Well, shit.
Saints Row games have always had a habit of making traversal fun, but how do you go one better than giving your boss character superpowers like in Saints Row 4? Well, you don't, but you can compromise, and some of those compromises look very fun indeed. In the gameplay we were shown, I saw everything from normal cars through to attack helicopters and even a very brief glimpse of a Back to the Future style hoverboard. So, to get where you're going in Santo Ileso, you won't even need roads.
See? Barbecue day, just like I said.
Didn't expect an aerial assault on your lunch break, did you?
Christ, this thing's for tourists? All clear. Land on the roof, and we'll get inside.
The most unique method of traversal, though, looks to be the wingsuit. We've seen one of these in countless Far Cry games, but this one here looks way more versatile and just plain fun to dick around with. For instance, one of the vehicle perks gives your cars an ejector seat, so you can fire yourself into the air if you get in real trouble, then wingsuit away to freedom, bouncing off pedestrians as you pass them to give yourself more height and momentum. This way you can chain your moves together, so you could jump out of one car, bounce around town for a bit, and then land on the roof of an unsuspecting driver's car, and then kick them to the curb and take theirs for yourself.
What?
If you love customization in video games, then Saints Row is going to be a must-buy for you because it includes probably the most in-depth customization options I've seen in a video game to date. Not only can you customize the look of your boss by changing everything from the texture and color of their skin down to their muscle and vein definition, but you can create multiple bosses, each with different looks, skills, and perks that you can swap to at any point in the game using your mobile phone app. You'll have seen quite a few examples of different bosses in the gameplay in this video, but there's basically infinite customization options here. Want to create Shrek? Easy. Want to dress your boss in a hot dog suit? No problem. You won't have all the customization options available from the start, mind. A lot of the outfits and perks will need to be unlocked or bought from shops as you go. But looks-wise, there's a huge amount to play with at the start, and it can all be done in the Style app on your phone. And that's not all. You can go deep under the hood and customize all your cars in insane amounts of detail. You can change the paintwork, you can add performance upgrade kits, nitro boots, funky horns, weird wheels, and as I mentioned before, even add in an ejector seat for quick getaways. Hell, you can even customize the skins of all of your weapons, and as you'll see in a couple of seconds' time, the interior of your base too. So I hope you don't have anything important to do, because if you love customization, you could be here for quite a while.
Perfection.
I can't wait to see how our criminal ventures work out. The idols were never big on entrepreneurial spirit.
This is the life.
During the hands-off preview we watched, we were told that, on top of all the open world stuff, there would be 25 critical path story missions to play through, along with 10 extra side missions too. While that may not sound like a huge amount, the ones we saw demoed seemed to be quite lengthy, and they featured a huge amount of variety to their structures. For instance, in this mission, the boss needs to rescue a friend from the idols, and to do so, first they get into a bar fight, then they drag a man locked in a portaloo through a music festival, wrecking everything in the process. Then they have to climb a giant sign and disarm some bombs.
Did these nutjobs rig bombs all the way up? Okay, remember your martial training.
Before finally wingsuiting into a party, getting into a shootout, and finishing it all off with a boss fight against a collective member. Phew!
Party's over, motherfucker!
You're not getting off that easy.
Come over here!
I can't believe it. Cool.
Blowing up a tourist sign? What is wrong with you people?
But when you're not busy rescuing your mate, there's still plenty of stuff to do in Santo Ileso thanks to the brand new War Table feature. The War Table is where you'll manage your empire by building criminal ventures which, when built, will open up criminal activities around the map. For instance, you could choose to build Jim Rob's garage, and by doing so, you'll then unlock vehicle customization and the Chop Shop mini-missions. Build a military surplus store, and that'll open up your ability to take part in mayhem missions, and so on and so on. Each new venture has 14 instances of its missions, but if you beat them all, you'll make progress towards a district takeover. And taking over all the districts is the main aim of the game. However, having played previous Saints Row games before, this formula does sound a bit too familiar. Sure, the War Table is a nice idea, but really it's only a fancy way to package and activate missions that we've already seen and done countless times before in the past games of the series. Also, having 14 instances of each venture is a good way to pad out an open world, sure, but if you're not a massive completionist, I feel like some of these ventures may end up just being a bit too repetitive to fully complete.
Kevin ain't here, so fuck off. Fuck you, Saint.
Tell me where Key is!
this!
Even me.
One of the best things about the Saints Row reboot that I heard during the presentation was that all facets of the game's open world and story missions will be available to play in untethered two-player co-op. If you don't know what untethered means, that's when both players can bumble around the game world at the same time, but go anywhere they want separately. Far Cry's 4, 5 and 6 had a similar two-player co-op mode, but that one was tethered, which meant that if you strayed too far from your co-op partner, you'd be teleported right back to them. There will still be times when Saints Row players will need to sync up with each other, but only when starting missions and things like that, so it's nowhere near as intrusive as Far Cry's tethered co-op, which hampered your ability to cause chaos quite a lot. In terms of gameplay, the danger will be dialed up if you have a partner playing with you, so calling in a friend isn't going to make your journey through Santo Ileso a walk in the park either. But you and your co-op partner will earn and share rewards for completing missions. That means if you join a friend's game and play a mission that you've not yet completed in your game, the next time you play single player and reach that mission, you'll be given the option to either play it again or skip it, so you won't be wasting your time if you decide to join a friend for a spot of mayhem and then end up getting sucked into a story mission.
No one's gonna forget this car show anytime soon.
And finally, as I love to end on a low point, I do have to say that while what I saw on offer looked fun, it really didn't look like there was a lot or even any new stuff in the Saints Row reboot that we hadn't seen somewhere before, other than, I don't know, maybe the change of tone, which really isn't saying much, as all they've really done is dial down the stupid and added a bit of emotional depth, rather than, you know, going full-on real-world gritty or something like that. I'm all in for the chaos, though, and the explosions and the off-the-wall Portaloo smashing missions, and I'm sure I'll have a wonderful couple of hours noodling around Santo Ileso, blowing shit up and firing piñatas at passers-by, but I honestly can't see myself sticking with it to completion at this point. New players who've never tried a Saints Row game before will almost definitely feel differently though, and they'll revel in the chaos and the GTA but sillier antics. But for someone like me who's played all the Saints Row games, I'm not sure enough has been changed or added to make a full reboot of the series a worthwhile waste of my time. But as always, I'll be very happy to be proved wrong when the game releases, which in this case is August the 23rd.
The fuck are you doing, Nina?
Esto es por ti, mamá.
When Saints Row does release, by the way, you can be sure that we here at Team Eurogamer will be indulging in some classic co-op shenanigans on a live stream or two. So if you'd like to see how that goes down, and you can be sure it'll end up with me getting shouted at somehow, do give this video a like, subscribe to Eurogamer for daily videos about video games, and click on that bell icon to make sure you get notified whenever we go live. Goodbye.